It begins before a single word is spoken. It manifests as a subtle shift in the architecture of the spine, a microscopic lowering of the chin, a softening of the eyes that signals harmlessness. The nervous system detects a potential friction, not a threat, merely the possibility of friction, and immediately initiates a cascade of de-escalation protocols. There is a distinct sensation in the chest, a hollowness that acts as a vacuum, inviting the other person to occupy more space while you instinctively occupy less. This is not a conscious decision to be subservient. It is a reflex, faster than thought, deep in the brainstem. You feel the sudden chemical urge to apologize for circumstances you did not create, to smooth over textures that are not rough. The brain is prioritizing immediate safety over long-term dignity, but it disguises this prioritization as politeness or empathy. It is the silent, pervasive broadcast of a specific frequency. I am manageable. I am malleable. I will not resist. And the most unsettling part of this state is that it works. The other person relaxes, the social tension dissipates, the interaction proceeds without conflict. But the dissipation of external tension leaves a toxic internal residue. You walk away feeling lighter, having survived the interaction, yet simultaneously heavier, burdened by a vague, nauseating sense of betrayal. The body has successfully performed its evolutionary function. It has secured connection by sacrificing the self, but the mind registers a violation. You have just successfully instructed someone on exactly how little resistance they will encounter when they push against you. But why does the system categorize your own boundaries as a danger that must be neutralized? From the outside, this survival mechanism is almost universally misdiagnosed. Society has constructed a laudatory lexicon for this state of high-alert submission. You are labelled low maintenance. You are praised for being easygoing, flexible, or selfless. In professional environments, you are the ideal employee because you absorb volatility without reflecting it back. In relationships, you are the stabilizing force, the one who never adds volume to an argument, the one who continually adjusts their reality to accommodate the rigidity of others. To the external observer, your lack of boundaries looks like a surplus of patience. They mistake your inability to defend your space for a genuine desire to share it. When you laugh off a comment that should have triggered anger, or when you automatically apologize for an error you didn't commit, the other person's brain does not register your distress. It registers permission. Humans are efficient, opportunistic creatures. They will naturally expand into whatever space is left unguarded. If they push against a boundary and meet no resistance, their nervous system encodes that territory as safe to occupy. They are not necessarily malicious. They are simply responding to the data you are providing. You are teaching them that your preferences are negotiable, that your time is secondary, and that your comfort is a currency you are willing to devalue to purchase their approval. They assume that if you were truly uncomfortable, you would say so. They cannot see that the mechanism inhibiting your speech is as powerful as a physical restraint. So, they continue to push, not always out of cruelty, but because you have effectively trained them to believe that you have no breaking point. You are curating an experience of yourself where you are an object of convenience rather than a subject of will. The tragedy is not that they disrespect you. It is that they are following the manual you wrote for them. And while they enjoy the convenience, you are silently absorbing the compounding debt of a transaction you never consciously agreed to make. The internal cost of this dynamic is rarely dramatic in its early stages. It does not manifest as a sudden collapse, but rather as a slow, methodical erosion of vitality. You begin to experience a specific type of fatigue that sleep does not resolve. This is not physical exhaustion. It is metabolic depletion caused by chronic inhibition. Every time you smile when you are not happy, every time you nod when you disagree, and every time you suppress the impulse to speak, your prefrontal cortex must burn glucose to override the amygdala's natural reaction. You are biologically engineering a state of artificial calm, and the energy required to maintain this facade is staggering. You are effectively driving through life with the parking brake fully engaged. The engine is roaring, the heat is rising, but the vehicle is barely moving. Over years, this friction wears down the machinery of the self. The first casualty is usually your own preference architecture. You find it increasingly difficult to answer simple questions like, "What do you want to eat?" or "What do you want to do?" This is not indecisiveness, it is atrophy. You have prioritized the preferences of others for so long that the neural pathways responsible for identifying your own needs have been pruned by the brain as non-essential data. You are becoming a vessel for the will of others, a ghost in your own machine. This creates a state of hyper-vigilance that never powers down. You are constantly scanning the environment, reading micro-expressions, and simulating the emotional states of those around you to anticipate their needs before they can articulate them. You do this to prevent the friction that might lead to rejection. Consequently, you are carrying the cognitive load of every room you enter. You are regulating the emotions of everyone except yourself. The result is a deep, simmering resentment, a cold anger that has nowhere to go because you cannot blame anyone else. You opened the door. You handed them the knife. You smiled while they cut. The exhaustion you feel is not an accident or a defect. It is the calculated, exorbitant fee your nervous system is willing to pay to purchase a specific kind of safety. This behavior is not a character defect, nor is it a lack of willpower. It is a biological calculation known as the Fawn response, a complex subroutine embedded in the mammalian nervous system. While most are familiar with the primitive binary of fight or flight, the Fawn response is a more sophisticated, socially evolved defense mechanism. When the amygdala detects a threat, which, for your specific neurobiology, includes a shift in tone, a silence that lasts too long, or a furrowed brow, it bypasses the logic centers of the neocortex. However, instead of mobilizing aggression, fight, or escape, flight, your system identifies that the safest route through the danger is merger. You are engaging a neurological strategy technically defined as appeasement. Within the framework of the nervous system, this is a paradoxical state. You are technically in high arousal. Your heart rate elevates, cortisol and adrenaline flood the bloodstream, but you simultaneously engage the social engagement system to mask that terror with a performance of helpfulness or agreement. You are physiologically screaming while socially performing composure. This is a survival adaptation, often forged in early environments where the authority figures were emotionally volatile, fragile, or conditionally available. In such an ecosystem, your autonomy was interpreted as a threat to the bond. To be fully self was to risk the attachment required for survival. Therefore, the developing brain encoded a rigid algorithmic rule. Safety is found in the absence of the self. You learn to scan your environment for the emotional weather of others, adjusting your internal state to regulate them. If they were calm, you were safe. If they were agitated, you were in danger. You became an external regulator for other people's nervous systems, outsourcing your sense of safety to their stability. This wireframe is now rusted into place. Even now, decades later, when you encounter a neutral or ambiguous expression, your anterior cingulate cortex, the area of the brain that processes physical pain and social rejection, activates. You interpret ambiguity as impending hostility. To soothe this neural burning, you preemptively offer submission. You fix problems that do not exist, to prevent a pain that is not actually coming. But here lies the critical error in the mechanism. This software was written to survive a threat that held structural power over you, a giant in a child's world. It was never designed for a peer. Why then does the brain persist in treating every equal like a master? You must dismantle the story that protects this behavior. You have labeled this reflex kindness, empathy, or loyalty. These are noble words used to hide a terrified reality. This is not kindness. Kindness is a gift given freely from a surplus of energy. What you are doing is paying protection money. You are prepaying a psychological tax to ensure that no one raises their voice, no one leaves, and no one rejects you. This is not empathy. Empathy is the ability to resonate with another person, while maintaining your own distinct shape. You are not resonating, you are dissolving. You are erasing your own borders so the other person has nothing to crash into. When you anticipate a partner's needs before they speak, you are not being thoughtful. You are engaging in hyper-vigilant reconnaissance. You are trying to solve them so they don't become a problem for you. This is not humility. Humility is knowing your size. This is a preemptive shrinking, a strategic collapse designed to make yourself too small to be a target. The difference lies in agency. If you cannot say no, then your yes has no value. A yes that is compelled by fear is not a decision, it is a capitulation. You are not a good person for doing this, you are a frightened one. And the tragedy is that in your desperate attempt to be good to everyone else, you have become the most ruthless aggressor toward yourself. You have identified with the shield so completely that you have forgotten there is a living thing behind it, suffocating under the weight of its own defense. This pattern is fractal. Once the neural groove is established, it repeats at every scale of your existence, from the intimacy of a bedroom to the sterility of a boardroom. Consider your professional life. You are likely the person who replies to emails at hours that imply you have no personal life. When a new project is floated in a meeting and a heavy silence falls over the room, you are the one who breaks it. You volunteer not because you have the capacity, but because you cannot tolerate the ambient tension of an unsolved problem. You absorb the incompetence of your colleagues, quietly fixing their formatting errors or logic gaps without credit, because the friction of correcting them feels more dangerous than the labour of doing it yourself. You believe you are building job security by being indispensable. In reality, you are building a cage. You are teaching your superiors that your capacity is infinite and your boundaries are non-existent. You are not rewarded for this, you are simply given more work. The system creates a vacuum and you rush to fill it. You wonder why you are passed over for leadership, failing to realise that leaders must be able to withstand the discomfort of saying no. You have positioned yourself as the perfect engine part, essential, reliable, and completely incapable of steering the ship. Shift the lens to your friendships. You are likely the therapist of your social circle. You attract people who are in perpetual crisis, people who consume oxygen and emit chaos. You listen for hours, nodding, validating, regulating their distress, while your own internal world remains a fortress, sealed and inaccessible. You tell yourself you are private. In truth, you are terrified that if you stopped providing utility, the relationship would dissolve. You have conflated being useful with being loved. You fear that if you brought your own heavy emotions to the table, the other person would not hold them. So you maintain a one-way transaction. You are the harbour, never the ship. Over time, you begin to resent these friends for not asking about you, yet you skillfully deflect every time they try. You are lonely in a crowded room because you have brought a representative to the interaction, leaving your true self locked outside for safekeeping. In romantic relationships, this mechanism reaches its most destructive potential. You do not just compromise, you chameleon. You adopt their hobbies, their pacing, their likes and dislikes. You scan them for what their ideal partner looks like, and you contort yourself into that shape. You believe this is romance. You believe this is soulmate synergy. It is actually a trauma response. You are mimicking them to avoid the danger of being distinct. This inevitably leads to a paradox. You attract partners who are drawn to your malleability, often those with high narcissism or rigidity, who delight in a partner who offers no resistance. Or, you attract healthy partners who eventually lose interest because they feel they are dating a mirror, not a person. They cannot connect with you because there is no you to grab onto, only a slippery surface of endless adaptation. You destroy the polarity required for desire because you are too busy ensuring safety. Even when you are alone, the pattern persists. You cannot rest. To sit still is to feel the rising panic of unproductivity. If you are not doing, fixing, or improving, you feel a vague sense of guilt, as if you are stealing time. The inner critic, that internalized voice of the original authority figure, monitors your solitude. You relax only when you are exhausted enough to justify it. You treat your own body not as a home, but as a tool that must earn its keep. You have successfully structured your entire reality, work, love, friendship, solitude, around the avoidance of a threat that is no longer there, paying a ransom to a kidnapper who left the building 20 years ago. The ultimate cost of this adaptation is not merely exhaustion, it is the systematic disintegration of the self. The brain is a ruthless economist. It adheres strictly to the use it or lose it principle. By chronically suppressing your authentic impulses, preferences, and boundaries to accommodate others, you are signaling to your nervous system that your own needs are statistical noise, irrelevant data to be discarded. Over decades, the neural pathways responsible for generating the signal of "I want" or "I need" physically atrophy. You do not just hide your desires, you eventually stop generating them. You become a drift-compatible entity, fluid and formless, unable to locate your own center without a compass provided by someone else. Simultaneously, this strategy creates a devastating paradox in your relationships. You fawn to secure connection, yet you render true connection impossible. You are offering the world a curated performance, a mask of frictionless agreeableness. Even if people love you, they love the mechanism, not the human. They love the convenience you provide, the silence you maintain, the labor you donate. This generates a specific, hollow loneliness, the gnawing knowledge that you are safe only as long as you are pretending. You are loved on the condition that you do not fully exist. Externally, the trade-off is equally severe. Humans possess an innate, unconscious radar for status and boundary integrity. They can physiologically detect the difference between kindness and submission. When you consistently broadcast that you are willing to devalue yourself to purchase peace, others instinctively devalue you as well. You teach them that you are a resource to be mined, not a territory to be respected. They may like you, but they will not revere you. You become background infrastructure, essential, reliable, and invisible. Finally, the repressed energy must go somewhere. Physics dictates that energy cannot be destroyed. The anger you swallowed, the no you choked back, it does not evaporate, it metabolizes. It calcifies into chronic inflammation, jaw tension, autoimmune dysfunction, or a dull, pervasive depression. You have successfully kept the peace. You have avoided the external conflict, but the war did not end. It merely migrated inside, where it is currently dismantling the infrastructure of your own body. The realization of this mechanism does not bring immediate relief. It brings weight. You are likely waiting for the instruction manual, the 3 steps to set boundaries, the mantra to reclaim your power. But to give you a tool now would be to feed the very mechanism that imprisons you. It would be another external directive for you to obey, another performance of doing it right. The fawn response is not a broken bone to be set. It is a ghost in the nervous system that must be witnessed, not exorcised. The integration begins not with a shout, but with a pause. A pause when the phone rings. A pause when the request is made. A pause when the chest tightens. In that terrifying gap between the stimulus and your automatic yes, there is a microscopic sensation of vertigo. It is the dizziness of standing on your own feet without a hand to hold. You will feel the urge to rush in, to smooth the silence, to fix the face of the person across from you. Do not. Stay in the vertigo. Watch the panic rise. Watch the catastrophic predictions flood your mind. They will leave. They will scream. I will die. Notice that you are not dying. You are merely existing in a space where you are not useful. This is the hardest work you will ever do, to sit in the presence of another human being and offer them nothing but your breath, to let the silence stretch until it threatens to tear. The question is not whether you can learn to say no. The question is much darker and much quieter. Who are you when you are no longer saving everyone from yourself?